Hi everyone, this is probably going to be my last New Year's themed video. I'm going to take a look at the statistics of what I read in 2020, and then I just want to talk with you guys a little bit about what I'm planning to read in 2021. Maybe not so much specifically, but what some of my reading goals are, and I want to talk about as well some of the goals that I have for the channel. Well, actually the reading goals and the channel goals are basically the same thing, so I'm kind of going to talk about it all together, but you'll see. I didn't think this would be interesting enough to make it its own video, but I did want to look back at what I read in 2020, so here's some statistics for you guys. I read a total of 88 books. You'll be astonished to hear that 58 of those were fantasy and 21 were science fiction. I actually thought more would be science fiction. I feel like I complained a lot during the year, especially during the Hugo Awards project, about how much science fiction I was reading, and yeah, apparently it was a lot more fantasy. This was just me counting, by looking through my list and counting things, so there also could be mistakes here. I read 3 nonfiction books, 2 historical fiction, 2 that I just kind of classified as literary, because that is kind of a wide range of things, but they didn't really fit in another category, and then 1 mystery. In terms of rereading, I reread the entire Cosmere by Brandon Sanderson, and I reread some books by Diana Wynne Jones, who is one of my all-time favorite children's authors. And then I reread the Winter Night trilogy by Catherine Arden, which I listened to on audiobook. So that was a really nice way to re-experience that trilogy. I forgot to write down exactly how many audiobooks I listened to. It wasn't that many. I'm pretty slow with audiobooks, and a lot of it is rereading. But I have found something really comforting about rereading the Diana Wynne Jones books on audiobook. When I was going through a stressful time, it really made me happy. Okay, since we're making New Year's resolutions, let's talk about some of the things I would like to do more of on my channel this year. I would really like to participate in more group reads. I tried to do one. It was a bad time for me, and I failed at it pretty dismally. But I like the idea of it, and I like discussing books with people, obviously, or I wouldn't have made this channel. So I'm gonna try, again, I don't have a specific number goal, but it's something I would like to do more of. It's just I tend to get kind of caught up in my own plans for what I want to read and do, and then I just don't feel like I have time to do like read-alongs and group reads and things like that, but I really want to. So I'm going to try to plan that out better and do more of that this year. In terms of channel goals, I also would love to have a more regular post schedule. I was pretty good about this for months, and then in the fall when things started getting busier again, things went by the wayside. It's okay, this is a hobby. I'm not gonna beat myself up if I can't film or post videos, but honestly, during that time, I could have filmed and posted videos. I was just too caught up in my own head to do it. So I'm thinking also I would love to have the kind of planning where I can post on the same days every week. I tend to film. Usually I batch film and then I'll edit and I'll just sort of post videos as they're ready, which is fine. I don't think anybody is really sitting around waiting for me to post on a specific day, but I feel like it would be nice for me. So I would like to try to have a more regular post schedule next year. I don't really know which days are best, but, I might experiment with that a little bit, but that's something you can expect to see from me. I'm going to try to be a little more consistent with when I schedule my videos. I also want to do better at commenting on other people's videos. I get really shy sometimes. I don't know what to write, and I feel bad just writing the same things over and over again, so I just won't say anything. So I'm going to try to be better at commenting on people's videos. I'm also really bad at tagging people for tags or doing shout outs to people, but again, I should be a little less shy and, try to do better at that. Another thing that I would like to make more time for also in my reading is rereads. I feel like being involved in BookTube has made me really, really eager to read all new things all the time, which is great, and I'm really enjoying it. It's exciting. I mean, obviously I did reread the entire Cosmere by Brandon Sanderson this year, so rereading has still been a part of my life, and I reread the Winter Night trilogy and Diana Wynne Jones books. Even so, I want to try to give myself some time to reread things. So again, maybe I'll try to do 1 reread a month. We'll see how that goes. But I would just like to make time for it so I can continue to revisit books that I really enjoy. Back when I was in college and I was trying to save money, because I'm kind of a fast reader too, and I didn't really have access to a good online library at that point, usually what I'd do is I'd buy things on Kindle, and before I ever bought a new book, I would look back through my Kindle, and if there was anything I felt like rereading, I would just reread that. So it was only when I was sick of all my books that I would buy a new book. So obviously some of the books that I enjoyed in college, I read I don't know if I read things 10 times, but I probably got pretty close on some of my favorites. That includes some of the earlier Brandon Sanderson, the Vorkosigan saga, a few other things that I am not as much a fan of anymore. Yeah, so I used to reread so much, and when I was a kid too. My parents were great about getting me books, but even so, because I was a fast reader, or I would go to summer camp and I would take 10 or 15 books with me for, I guess, 6 weeks if it was a long program. And usually I'd finish my books in the first week or two and then I'd just reread them for the whole summer. That was back in the days before smartphones and Kindles and constant internet access. I can't imagine not having internet access for 6 weeks. I guess kids now probably just have their smartphones. But yeah, that's hard to imagine. So I'm pretty comfortable with just deciding to read whatever I feel like, and mostly what I feel like is fantasy. I don't feel a lot of pressure these days to expand my horizons and try a lot of different genres. I feel like I do know what I like, and my tastes are pretty diverse within those genres. So there are a lot of genres that I really have no interest in reading right now, and others, I might. Sometimes I feel like reading classics, but I don't feel like under a lot of pressure to go out and read classics. I do think, though, that reading exclusively fantasy and science fiction can lead to burnout sometimes. I think those genres are more varied than they've ever been, and there's so much different stuff to read, so I don't think burnout is inevitable, but every now and then I do feel like something different. So for next year, I really would like to try reading more mysteries and historical fiction. Those are two other genres that I like and ones that I didn't read very much in this past year. I definitely have strong preferences within those genres as well. I'm totally open to recommendations, but I'm going to tell you guys what I don't want to read. So when it comes to mysteries, a lot of detective stories in general have this detective character. You will probably recognize him. He tends to be a guy, generally kind of middle-aged. He always has a contentious relationship with his ex-wife, and he tends to either drink or smoke too much, or maybe both. He's really bad at communicating, which is why he gets overly obsessed with cases and puts his professional life over his personal life, and that probably led to the destruction of his relationship with his ex-wife. He may also have a young or teenage child that he does a very bad job taking care of when it's his turn to have custody. I feel like I have read so many novels with this guy as the protagonist, and he's kind of a loser, and I just don't want to read about him anymore. I feel like he's kind of the evolution of the classic noir detective, but just more personal issues. Okay, and when it comes to historical fiction, here's the story I do not want to read. It's the story about a young woman who has led a sheltered life and gets married off, and the marriage is always bad. Either he's gay or he's having an affair. He's usually much older. Usually it looks like it's going to be a great marriage at first, and then she ends up just being neglected and having to figure out what to do with herself, and usually having an affair with someone else. And sometimes grand historical events are going on in the background, but we never get to see them because we're stuck in this person's life. I feel like that is the plot of a very large number of woman-oriented historical fiction books. Now, I want to read historical fiction with female protagonists, but I would like them to do something other than get married or fail at getting married, because I think even in history, women did all sorts of things. And sure, there were a lot of limitations on them because of society, but they were still involved in some pretty interesting things. Other than that, I'm pretty open to historical fiction. I like things where I feel like I really get to visit and learn about a certain time in history. I definitely have a love for some of the classic historical fiction, like I, Claudius by Robert Graves, but I don't mind. In fact, I probably like stuff that's a little more character driven and a little less just sort of a fictionalized retelling of history. I don't think I want to give myself a specific goal for mysteries and historical fiction this year, but maybe I'll try to read one a month, either a mystery or a historical fiction, and see how I feel about that. Okay, before I get into any more specific plans for the channel, let's also talk about what I want to do less of next year. First of all, I really need to rein in my YA habit, because I keep doing this thing where I pick up YA books because I think they sound cool, and somehow forget that I don't really like most YA, and then I get disappointed. So I think for YA, I think I just need to stick to the very few YA authors that I know I enjoy, and just no matter how interesting something sounds, if it's labeled YA, I should give it a pass this year, unless I hear really amazing things about it from people. I hate to say it, I'm just not a YA reader, and I should stop trying to be one because it clearly just isn't for me, and I'm driving myself crazy. The other thing I'd like to do less of next year is I'd like to rein in my TBRs a little bit. I usually pick TBRs of like 10-ish books, and I usually do get through most of that and then kind of just get off track sometime in the month and read other things that weren't in my TBR, and that's pretty fine. I'm comfortable with that. But the last TBR I actually did, which I think was October, I picked stuff out of my magic hat. I thought that was really fun, and I really liked the idea of introducing an element of randomness. But in order to do that, I need to have less planning. So I think I need to limit myself to like 4 or 5 books that I pick for my TBR every month. And then maybe I will do more things drawn from the hat. So I'll keep making my husband pick books. Maybe I'll put in suggestions from you guys. I think that would be really fun, and just have a few more random books in the month so I feel like I can get to everything. So in terms of what I want to read specifically, I know I've already done a video about series I'm planning to continue next year, and I am going to be doing an anticipated releases 2021 video. So you can check out those videos, at least whichever ones are up when I post this, because I don't know when I'm going to post this. You can check out those for specific titles that I'm planning to read next year. Also though, I have made a promise. I have promised my best friend that I am going to read The Wheel of Time, and she has said that she will read The Cosmere. So she has read a couple of books. Actually, maybe she's only read Elantris. She'll have to correct me on this. I know she's watching. So she's going to read The Cosmere by Brandon Sanderson, and she did a complete Wheel of Time reread last year, which I was very impressed by. She also read the entire thing straight through, all 14 books. I don't think she read anything else in the middle. I'm not going to do that. But I'm kind of hoping I can read the entire Wheel of Time in 2021. That's going to be a really big project. I have tried to read the Wheel of Time twice, 3 times, a few times before, not for many years. It's probably been a decade since my last attempt, at least. And my most successful attempt, I think I got to, I don't know if I got to book 4. I definitely got through book 3 as a kid. So we're gonna try again. We'll see how it goes. It's a little scary committing to reading all of this. Yeah. They're not as long as Stormlight Archive books though, right? It's only like, this is only like 800 pages, not like 1200. That'll be easy. So I don't know, we'll see how I handle this in terms of videos. I don't know if I'll do a video for each book or not. They're so big, I feel like I should. But I haven't really thought about that. I just know I've promised to read The Wheel of Time in 2021, so I'm gonna do that. I know I already mentioned in this video that I was rereading some Diana Wynne Jones recently. I was listening on audiobook. I think I've gone through most of what the library has on audiobook. But then I was just thinking about her books and looking back over some of the things she's written. There are certain books by her that I've read a lot, but there are also others that I either haven't read or read maybe once. I had a friend when I was younger who was really, really into Diana Wynne Jones, and I think had read everything by her, and so I borrowed a lot of books from her as well. Most of Diana Wynne Jones's books you could probably classify as either middle grade or young adult. So even though I said I want to read less YA this year, I really want to read more Diana Wynne Jones. It's just something that's been bringing me a lot of happiness and joy, and that's something I think we all need right now. She has some books that are pretty popular, like Howl's Moving Castle. I think there are others that I'm not sure if they're even in print anymore. So I'm gonna see how much Diana Wynne Jones I can track down this year. And I don't know, I don't have a name for this project. Maybe I'll just call it Diana Wynne Jones for grown-ups. One more thing I definitely want to do in 2021 is another round of my Hugo Awards reading project. Last year, I read all the finalists for the Hugo Award for Best Novel and the Hugo Award for Best Series. I really enjoyed doing that. I did DNF a couple of the books in the end, but I also got through a lot of things that I would not have picked out for myself, and even found some new favorites. So that was a really good experience overall. I had fun making the reviews. I had fun making the wrap-up videos. I think I got to review some books that there weren't really a lot of or any reviews out for, so that was fun too. The finalists for the Hugos aren't gonna get announced for months. I think it's like late spring, maybe the end of April. I'm not sure exactly. So I'll have a few months to do that. There's usually a few months between when the finalists get announced and when the winners get announced. Again, I'm not gonna join Worldcon or vote or anything like that. So this will just be my personal ranking, but it's something that I really enjoyed doing last year. And I know a lot of people told me they hoped I would do it again. I'm sort of curious because I feel like I kept up better with new releases in 2020 than I have in a very, very long time. So I'm sort of wondering if I will end up having read some of the books that are finalists for Best Novel already, or if I'll have read some of the books that are finalists for Best Series. So if that's the case, or even if I just want to expand the project, I might do something like add more categories. I was really not interested in reading novellas last year, but I read a couple of novellas this summer in the end, and I overall really enjoyed them. So I'd feel kind of open to doing a novella category as well in my Hugo Awards read. Or there's an award it's technically not a Hugo, but it's given out as part of the Hugo Awards, the Astounding Award for Best New Writer. So I would consider reading stuff. I mean, there are authors named on that, not books, but I would consider reading works by authors on that list. We'll see. Maybe as we get closer, you guys can let me know what you'd be the most interested in. I'm probably not going to do the YA category, and I'm still not really a short story person, but other than that, I'm feeling kind of open. They're also adding a new category to the Hugos this year. It might just be a 1 year only thing, but they're doing an award for Best Video Game, which I think is really cool, honestly. I mean, there's already awards for I think they call it long form and short form dramatic presentation, but it usually ends up being TV series or movies or like an episode of a TV series. So I feel like video games are largely story based, at least some of them are. So I feel like that could kind of fit. And I assume it'll be video games that have a fantasy or science fiction story to them. So I think that's a pretty cool idea since video games are pretty big. And I think probably just the fact that a lot of people played video games this past year because they were stuck at home. I assume that's why they're adding that category. As much as I might enjoy getting to review video games for this channel, I do not think I'll be doing the finalists for that award category either because I only own one console and I'm not that much of a gamer. I'm pretty bad. So yeah, but I still think it's cool that they're adding it. So that's what you can expect from me with the Hugo Awards this year. I'll do a video when the finalists get announced, and I'll talk about what I'm going to read. Then I'll review things as I go along, and then I'll do my wrap-up videos overall and in each category, and a reaction video once the winners are announced. Basically what I did last year, but I'm just going to sort of decide as the finalists are announced and see what I'm going to actually read for it this year. So yeah, I think that pretty much sums up the things that I'm thinking about right now for the channel next year and what I'm planning. Let me know if there's anything that you want to see or anything you particularly like that I mentioned. But thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate getting all the comments and feedback on what I'm doing. Honestly, I still find it astonishing that anybody watches my videos at all. So thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already because now you know all the exciting things that are coming your way in 2021.